High Strange is an 8-part series. If you'd like to binge the whole series right now, ad-free, you can. Subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus on Apple Podcasts. Hey, it's Payne here. We have some really exciting updates for you. The UFO story has not gotten any smaller or quieter. It's gotten a little bit louder, we think. We have some special guests, some news stories you probably haven't heard yet, and a very special announcement about the future of High Strange. But what you can do right now, and I highly suggest you do, is go listen to a new interview that we did with a man named Jeremy Corbell. It's available on my weekly podcast, Talking to Death. It's out right now. Just go search Talking to Death on your podcast app and look for the most recent episode with Jeremy Corbell. And I promise you, it's worth it. Thanks, y'all. God, it's a good song. And he's out of jail now.
Is he?
He is, yeah.
Oh, Gunna. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, when did Metro go to jail?
Okay, we're back.
Out of jail.
It's been a minute. Yeah, we're out of jail.
Out of jail, straight to space.
That's why it took so long. We've been in jail this whole time. No, we've been in podcast jail making other podcasts, but trust me when I say we have never stopped thinking about High Strange because it's one of the most fun shows I think I've ever worked on. No, we're back here because, one, we've missed you. Two, we've really never stopped talking, thinking about, or researching, investigating UFO phenomenon since episode 8 of High Strange. And we've done a couple different things since then, and we wanted to give you another Roundtable episode because it's been so long. A lot's happened since we left off. I feel like a year ago, which is about a year ago now, almost, when the podcast first came out, I feel like the conversations evolved even more, like, further past that in a good way, in terms of people just being open to the concept of, hey, maybe there's stuff going on that we don't fully understand, and it's okay to look into it.
I mean, I can honestly say that since High Strange ended, I have researched more than I did during the production of High Strange into UFOs, into aliens, into NHI. I am obsessed
Right.
Beyond what I was before.
Dylan was already obsessed, I think.
I'll always be obsessed. Yeah, if any of you could see our text chain for the last 8 months since we last made this, none of you would ever listen to us.
Nothing gets
right.
It's just all conspiracy
Kills
theory after
all
conspiracy
credibility
theory.
of the show.
Absolutely.
No, but nothing gets through the cracks. Nothing slips through the cracks. We see it all. We've seen everything you think that you need to email to us. We have seen it.
Right.
We have seen
or if you're just a casual listener, you're like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Tell me something. Right. Okay. That's fair too.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of more in that camp sometimes as well, where you guys send me this stuff. And there's been some big news stories. I think the biggest thing that's happened since the release of High Strange was this kind of legendary congressional hearing. And last minute, Dylan and I decided to take a flight to D.C. and go to this thing. Wanted to set up what was actually going on that day. Just like for those who didn't know this happened, there was a big congressional hearing about UFOs. And we went to go see these people speak in front of Congress.
Yeah, so, I got the call from Payne, late one. It was probably 8 p.m. one night.
We had like an hour to get there.
Yeah, and he calls me. He's like, "We're gonna go." I don't own a suit because I'm a child, but apparently you need a suit.
You are a child.
Yeah,
you should own a suit.
I should own a suit. I'm 32.
Well, I have one suit,
and you looked good in it. Let me say.
Oh well, thank you.
You looked real suave.
But that's
walking
all
into the
I got.
halls.
I can't repeat it.
Yeah, but we get there. You in your suit, me in just my everyday clothes. Luckily, they still let me in, which is nice. But we get there, not really knowing what to expect, and we get sent into this room next to the congressional hall where the meeting's actually taking place, and it's just full of other
nerds.
Let's call them nerds. I was going to say alien enthusiasts, but let's call them for what they are. They're nerds.
Nerds.
We were there too. We're like, oh my God, we dressed up nice for this.
Oh, I wanted to go so bad. I was so jealous.
Yeah.
It was an experience. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Well, there were so many people at this random hearing on like a Tuesday or something that there was a spillover room for press because the actual congressional room was too full for anyone else to attend in there. And so we were in, at first I was kind of bummed. Like, oh man, I wanted to be in the actual room where they're doing this. But it actually turned out to be a cooler experience, I think, because we had a live feed from the room right next door. So we could hear it and see it. But there was way less, there was less rules in this room, I'd like to say. It was
the back of the class.
It was the back of the class. People were clapping. It was this surreal thing. Like, people talk about the idea of disclosure, right? Where, eventually one day the government comes out and says, hey, here's what's really going on. And there's all these species of aliens, or we have these craft. I don't think it's ever going to happen that way. It'd be cool if it did. But it felt like a disclosure moment where you were, maybe I was just too excited, but it felt like in the moment I was witnessing something that was like legendary.
I think it's historical. I think Grush will be in textbooks.
Okay, let's talk about Grush, because if you don't know who David Grush is, who's really the main person who was testifying before Congress, let's talk about who David Grush is and what he was even saying.
What was your favorite thing he said in the congressional?
Well, I remember you showing me that this guy was about to come out. There was a whistleblower from the government who was coming out with some big bombshell information, and then they dropped this interview with Ross Coulthart, this journalist from News Nation, and we watched it at the same time. I think we were in Denver or something.
Yeah.
And you got me hyped on it, and he was saying stuff that was absolutely bonkers, crazy sounding, because you've never heard really many people of that level of clearance say something like that.
That's the thing. It's you've heard crazier claims than this. Everyone has. Everyone's heard some crazy shit from some UFO guy who's like, yo, the aliens, I'm talking to him in my head from my bedroom. I can call UFOs to my house, my backyard. We've all heard that.
Yeah.
If you've looked into this at all, you've heard the crazy stuff. But this guy, the crazy thing about this is he was saying some of the crazy shit, but his credentials check out. He's like legit top clearance, like big deal, counterintelligence guy, came from like working on big missions.
Not a dum-dum.
Not a dum-dum. This guy isn't some guy. I'm probably saying this wrong, but I think he was about to be promoted to like lieutenant colonel, which is like super high up in the military. Like, this guy is not a joke. He's not some crazy person. But Grush is like almost bulletproof. Like, this guy's like legit. Like,
he's a good guy for it.
He was briefing Obama on counterintelligence measures. Like, that, they don't that responsibility doesn't go to
it's
just
an egg
anyone.
on their face if this guy is has completely lost his mind, but somehow still sounds completely sane when he's talking. Like, let's just run down bullet point some of the biggest claims that David Grush made to Congress.
Can I start with my favorite one?
Yes.
Mussolini. And this is, no one's going to believe this. The casual listener.
Great start.
I'm sorry. Mussolini, his Italia, recovered a UFO in 1933. And he's like saying this like this is fact. Like the U.S. government or whatever, this special access program, whatever this black project is, knows about this recovery in 1933 under Mussolini.
And this is part of some bigger idea here, where he's basically saying that for decades now, the government has had this secret program, a UFO crash retrieval program, where UAP have allegedly crashed on Earth, and the U.S. has scooped them up and tinkered with them and tried to figure out how they work and kept all this stuff a secret. It even goes beyond that.
And this predates Roswell, which is the crazy.
Because Roswell is 47?
You know, the biggest theory that I've always followed and always believed in is that we set off nuclear bomb tests in 1946, 1947. I don't remember the exact date. You can look it up. It's on Wikipedia. It's Trinity test. We set off the nuclear bomb test and they came, right? No, this predates this. This is 1933. This is before. So all that, like, they're attracted to nuclear bombs, which they probably are, and nuclear energy and whatever. But this predates this. This is something before that. And what I think he's implied is that it's even older than that, which I think I've thought for a while now. But
yeah, there are huge claims that go for generations. Like basically, he's alleging that there is this black program, this hidden secret program that Congress and even the president most of the time, if not damn near all the time, is not privy to, where they are keeping the secret that we know extraterrestrial life not only exists, but has been here and maybe even is here. And we have crafts, and the way he phrases it is biologics.
Non-human intelligence.
Biologics of non-human intelligence, meaning cadavers.
Insanity. And you can look past that, though. Like that, you can, sure, dismiss that. Go ahead.
And on the surface, this sounds,
It
this sounds
crazy.
nuts, right?
But what did he do? He got, in a congressional hearing, he got both sides of the spectrum, both sides of the parties, both parties to agree. You got AOC, you got, what's his name?
Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz and AOC, both like, wait a minute.
Working together.
Both giving a shit, yeah.
And this goes into Bryan Bender's whole first article that he wrote about this in 2017, where he's like, okay, where is all this money going, right? That's the real issue. This is taxpayer money going somewhere else that it's hidden. AOC is like, whoa, okay. I don't care about the alien stuff, but like what I gathered from her Congressional Oversight Committee testimony and questioning is, where is this money that the taxpayers are putting in? Why is this going to some secret private entity?
Like no matter what it is, right? Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it's for. This is a problem.
Yeah.
And then you got Matt Gaetz kind of saying the same thing. You got both sides of the red or blue kind of coming together on this, being like, yo, we need to dig further into this. Senate's freaking out about this a little bit, at least some of them.
If you remember back to High Strange Season 1, we featured two journalists pretty prominently, Leslie Kean and Bryan Bender, and they would chime in kind of throughout the whole series with great insight on different details and aspects and just a little historical factoids about the UFO story in American culture. They were also two of the journalists who broke a really big story years ago that kind of blew the lid off of this conversation in the mainstream with the New York Times and Politico.
And Politico, yeah.
And we met with Leslie Kean a couple of times, and she always sort of kind of hinted at there being some other big thing coming, which is what every UFO person does ever, I feel like. But I believed it this time.
You talked to the right person. I think you do know more.
And sure enough, though, she's the first person to technically break this David Grush story, the guy who came out with these big claims about this secret government project going on.
Yeah.
And and so we actually talked to Bryan Bender again recently, and gracious for his time, just to kind of catch up on what's all happened since then. And I always enjoyed the way that he pragmatically broke things down, and it wasn't always he didn't always make it about aliens, right? And maybe it is aliens, and it's the way that we think that they are. Maybe it is, and it's all these other dozens of things or thousands of things too. Maybe it's none of that, and we don't understand it. Either way, if there's something that we don't understand, I think that it's worth looking into. And he always had that sort of pragmatic, practical approach to it, which I really found refreshing. And so catching up with him was fun. And we're going to play some clips of that for you guys in a little bit.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate Bryan, and I think I really love that he's mostly skeptical, even though he's heard some stuff. He's heard some stuff that I haven't even heard.
Well, hearing is not seeing, right?
Right.
It's what you want David Grush to come forward with is physical video evidence.
Physical
something you can
DNA
touch,
evidence.
analyze.
Yeah.
Now, you couldn't really ask for a more credible guy, right? A more credible
No.
person.
No.
But again, it's just you're going on somebody's word. And so that's a big leap. And with claims this big, this new to us as a society, I think that it's only fair to be met with a little bit of scrutiny. But what if he's telling the damn truth?
Oh, if he could.
I don't know if he is or not, but I will say this. He's pretty fucking believable. I mean, he's good at it.
I guarantee you, if he could walk out on stage on the News Nation interview and be like, "Hey, Ross, I brought a sample of a craft and it's metal that we've never seen before," he would do that. He just can't. You know, he's got to go through the DOPSR process. He's got to get things cleared. Anything he talks about in public or on media, it has to be approved first.
So what this process you're talking about, this is where he could get in trouble for divulging, I guess, top secret information? Or,
yeah.
How does that work exactly from how you know it? Like,
so
what's he afraid of?
So it's weird, but I've only learned this semi-recently since High Strange ended, episode 8 ended. I've learned this afterwards because honestly, after our season ended, so much stuff happened. And I really had to dive deep into this topic and be like, okay, wait, this is actually moving forward in a weird way I didn't expect.
Right.
Almost in a synchronistic way. So with the DOPSR thing, basically he has to get approval from his higher ups. He's no longer working with them. He's no longer part of the military in any way, I don't believe. But he has to go to the ICIG, which is the...
Which already losing me. What's that?
Yeah. So it's
I'm with you.
his higher up. It's basically just think an intelligence leader, right? The leader of the intelligence.
To get permission.
Yeah.
Or something.
So, and the DOPSR stands for Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review. Because he has the highest clearance level, there's and that's the thing. There's all these myths about how many clearance levels there are. So he has the highest level of security clearance. So he's trusted with the biggest secrets in our nation, right? Amongst our nation. It has to be cleared because he was a former employee, right?
These guys are trying to not go to jail, basically.
Yeah, because if they release some classified information to the general public, that is like treason.
Yeah, whether the UFO part of it is true or not, if you divulge that, then you're going to jail.
If you accidentally give away a missile system that we don't want our enemies to know about, some sensor development that we've figured out that China or Russia or Iran doesn't know or doesn't have access to, it's for national security. I get it. It's classified information. You have to get stuff approved before you can talk about it. But before his congressional hearing, he did a DOPSR, got it cleared. Everything he talked about to News Nation in front of congressional hearing was cleared.
And he was being very careful about it. You could tell that he was, he had just prepped himself on the scope of what he knew he could legally talk about. Or that's how it came across, at least.
Yeah, they're saying it doesn't go against national defense to say anything that's in this brief. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Sure. But you're just allowed to talk about it. It doesn't interfere with what we're doing.
Right.
I got a chance to talk to Bryan Bender about David Grush and this congressional hearing that Dylan and I got to attend in person. And because he's smarter than I am, he more eloquently breaks down some of the big key points of what David Grush was actually claiming. And when you analyze it, it's some pretty big stuff. Let's kick to it real quick. Bryan, how you been, man?
I'm good.
What's the latest in your world of journalism?
So, well, I sometimes joke that I'm now a recovering journalist. So about a year ago, I left journalism as a sort of daily full-time reporter and editor after, I hate to admit it, but 24, almost 25 years. And I'm still writing, I'm still reporting, but I have a different day job where I'm now basically a Beltway bandit, as they call it. So I'm a communications consultant, mostly helping tech startups and research universities navigate the federal government. So helping them tell their stories. But I'm still writing, I'm still reporting. I'm a contributor to Politico magazine, so working on a couple of sort of bigger projects for them. So keeping busy, but a little bit of a different audience, but a lot of the same topics: national security, global affairs, politics. Once in a while, UFOs.
Right.
If I trip and fall into the rabbit hole.
I just realized before we hopped on this call that the first time we talked was in Roswell, New Mexico, at that UFO event. And I never really asked you, I don't think, or at least it wasn't in the podcast, what your thoughts on that was. I mean, because it was, for me, it was like, this is totally bizarre. Also, Roswell, New Mexico does not have enough restaurants. But Applebee's was really good.
And that giant alien outside the Dunkin' Donuts, to make it clear, it was a statue of an alien, not a real alien. It's interesting. When I kind of stumbled into the UFO story in 2017, when I was part of that group of reporters that initially got some inside information about some Pentagon research programs that had been going on, that had been kind of secretly funded by Congress in recent years. I kind of pretty quickly made this determination that I'm going to follow the money. So if the government's spending money on UFO research, who's it going to? What's it for? Who are the key decision makers in Washington that are behind it? Because I was a Politico reporter. I mean, to me, that was the story for us. It's like, okay, this is a political story. It's a policy story. People are really concerned about things that are out there and unidentified, some of which seem to defy what we know about physics. And I decided that I was not going to sort of go too far down the rabbit hole of like sightings and reports and testimonies, because obviously there's this whole canon of ufology that I once said on a panel that I covered a little bit of the JFK assassination in terms of like the fight over the government files that were still being withheld, and I used to think that was like a ball of yarn, but I hadn't met the world of ufology yet.
Oh man!
In some ways, it makes this JFK
kidding.
assassination crowd look,
small fries.
Exactly. But my takeaway from Roswell and others is sort of like, if UFO research could sort of start now and go forward and throw away all the stuff in the past, I think we could be more effective at actually finding some answers to some of these mysteries, because just the level of scar tissue that exists and the different viewpoints on, was Roswell an alien crash? Was it, some military test? Was it a cover up? What happened there? I mean, it's like, it's almost impossible for a journalist in modern day to untangle that mythology versus fact. And, you saw that on display in Roswell. I mean, I went to one of the panels, what was like, it was a lot of people on the panel. It was like 40 white guys lined up all over the age of 70. And like, they had like, each of them had two different theories about what happened there.
Right.
And they were adamant about it. I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit, but, the journalist to me was like, I wouldn't even know how to write this story.
Right. Is there a story?
Write the story of Roswell, Bender. I mean, I'd be like, I don't even know where to start. But it's not on like religion. I mean, some people have their own sort of little lane in the world of ufology that they believe, and many of them have read millions of books and done all kinds of independent research, and they believe it as if it's gospel, and it's like nothing is going to change their mind. There's pretty widespread belief or kind of gut feeling that we are not alone in the universe as an intelligent species, whatever species might mean, elsewhere in the universe. Could mean something very different than what we think of. And I think you could also go a step further and say there's decent amount of evidence, certainly circumstantial, if not even more, than that. That they actually do exist somewhere in some way. Because, I mean, it's hard to look back over history and even in ancient religions. I mean, so many references to some sort of heavenly beings coming here, having some sort of role, certainly in our sense of ourselves as a human race. And I tend to be among those who believe that, where there's smoke, there's fire. There probably is something that fits that description somewhere in the universe, far away or maybe not so far away. But then the second bucket I sort of think about is, and this gets into some of the reporting that I was involved in, the question of whether our government or governments of the world have some really solid answers to that question or evidence of that they've been hiding from us. I consider those sort of two different lanes, if you will, because I think you can believe that there are aliens or there are extraterrestrials or some sort of form of intelligent life that, for whatever reason, we can't kind of put our finger on in a sort of convincing way where everybody's like, oh, yeah, of course they're here or they've been here. And I'm in that camp, but I'm not yet convinced, like many people in the world of ufology are, that the evidence of that, the proof of that, is somehow resident in some secret government agency or buried under Area 51. And in the grandest conspiracy of all time, the US government, presumably in cahoots with other governments in the world, has kept that hidden from the global public. I don't think that there's evidence of that.
I would imagine that even though it's been on UFO Twitter and on a bunch of front page everything all over the news circuit, some people have probably been living under a rock or just haven't heard about this yet. So to speak to them, just give me a little short recap log line on David Grush. Who are we talking about?
So David Grush is a now former intelligence official. He worked for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, which is sort of one of the alphabet soup intelligence agencies, really responsible for using space to map the Earth. But he was part of this Pentagon task force that was set up by Congress a couple of years ago to basically answer some of these questions, like, were there secret government programs that might know about extraterrestrial crashes? Were there programs that could have been reverse engineered, where we learned some new technology from something that we recovered that we couldn't explain? So David Grush was part of that effort. Last year, he came forward publicly and also filed a request for an investigation through the Inspector General for the intelligence community, which is sort of like the internal watchdog over all the spy agencies. And his claims are that he talked to dozens of people on the inside with clearances like himself who assert that the government did, in fact, have in its custody at some point UFO crash material, and that there was an actual secret program to figure out how does that stuff work. He's made those claims publicly. He's testified before Congress, but he is the first to say that none of the some 40 people that he says he talked to on the inside or people that had real knowledge, does he have firsthand knowledge himself. In other words, he's never seen anything. He's never worked on such a program. He's hearing this from people who swear that this is the case. And when I say I don't think there's evidence of these claims, we don't know what these secret programs were. We don't know where they were run. We don't know how they were hidden. Now, granted, they could all be secret, deeply classified, and so that's why we don't know. But I also think we have to consider that one of the most common things humans do, you and I do it probably all the time in our daily lives, is play the game of telephone, which is I talk to somebody who knows my brother-in-law, who works in the secret agency, who saw the alien bodies at Area 51. I have found in my reporting and getting to know some of the leading people, particularly former government officials who really believe this, who again will say, I never saw it myself, that they have fallen victim to a little bit of a game of telephone that has gone on for decades. Sort of the water cooler talk, even at the CIA or at the Pentagon, where people hear these stories and they hear them from people that are quite credible. I mean, they have security clearances, they're entrusted with our nation's secrets. But, I do think there is an element of this, of sort of this echo chamber, if you will, that this is true and it's always been true and it's always been hidden. And I talk to the people who know about it, but yet we still haven't seen the goods. And, and people say, well, if it's secret, why would we see the goods, right? How would the government, bring itself to ever let us know? And my rejoinder to that is we get a lot of secrets that get leaked out of the government, tons of them, to the point where they put people in jail for the rest of their lives for leaking stuff. So if, there was this grand conspiracy to hide evidence, real evidence of alien life, why have we not been able to figure it out? And why haven't we been able to see the evidence? I'm not ruling out that it's possible that has happened. Those programs did exist. There was a UFO crash. I'm just saying I'm just not convinced yet that that's the case, even though there's this whole sort of cultural phenomenon surrounding this that almost takes it as gospel. We watch a lot of Hollywood movies that underscore that. And I think, it's a cultural issue as much as it is a sort of, national security issue, right? We believe what we believe, and it doesn't matter really what the facts are or the truth is. And I think we can't rule out that some government people have fallen victim to that too.
Back to the claims that he's made, do you mind kind of unpacking a few of those? And he mentioned some sort of biologics crafts, and I mean, alleging that aliens are real. We've seen the bodies, have the bodies, and we have craft, and it's just all the things that Steven Spielberg wanted it to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, his claims are that the government has hidden for decades secret programs that have known about, when he says biologics, like literally like biological material, so alien bodies or parts of alien bodies, also alien technology, and that there were programs, up to secretly try and understand how does this stuff work. So that's the reverse engineering program that he claims, or programs. And he claims that these were hidden from even the highest levels of the government, that they were sort of deeply buried in kind of the military industrial complex. And I say that because these claims also assert a role for defense companies, aerospace companies, the Lockheed Martins or the, Northrop Grumman's, not them necessarily specifically, but the companies that have made the stealth bombers and all of those secret programs that, were being developed for decades. And in some cases were actually mistook for UFOs, right? I mean, they were testing these things out in the desert, stealth bombers and drones and all those things. I mean, those things were being developed in secret for years. And I think it's important to sort of remember that, because when you talk about secret alien technology, and if you're one who believes that the government does have it or has been working with something like that, you can't really divorce it from the other netherworld of black programs. So billions of taxpayer dollars that have gone in to develop next generation technology, like the stealth fighter, the stealth bomber, hypersonic missiles. I mean, that budget has gone up and up and up and up. We don't know kind of what's in it, but we know the overall numbers. And so there's a lot of secret technology development going on as we speak. Doesn't necessarily mean it has any relationship or connection to, ET or alien technology. But if there were to be alien technology that we recovered or studied or something, and somehow learned something that got bled into some of those black programs, it's all the more reason for the government not to want to talk about it, to want to cover it up. But, you mentioned the recent House hearing and the former pilots. I think their testimony for me also fits into that first bucket I mentioned earlier. In other words, you know, David Grush, the whistleblower, says the government is hiding all this stuff. But it's hard to dismiss those sightings of those Navy pilots and their testimony and what they say they saw as real evidence of something really woo-woo and really out there, really advanced. And, you know, if they're not ours, and the government has said that some of those things, those orbs, those spheres, they call them tic tacs. They were like oblong shaped craft that, you know, would go to from 100,000 feet to the surface of the ocean in like a few seconds. Nothing that we could do. The government has said they're not ours. And so the government is on the record saying that we're seeing stuff out there that we can't explain, and we're trying to explain it. But again, that's different from the government already knows what these things are and is just lying to us and, you know, has figured out all the answers. I think a lot of their reluctance to talk about the UFO issue is not because they have knowledge they don't want to share. It's because of the lack of knowledge. In other words, they know there's something out there and they can't really figure out what it is. And if you're in the intelligence business, you don't share secrets, but you also don't share information that you haven't really put together yet either, because you wouldn't want, you know, your potential enemies to know that. So I do think that, you know, the pilots coming forward, it's really changed the conversation, and it made it a sort of more serious topic. Like, if we don't know what these things are, we damn well better find out. But, you know, it's still intriguing to me, the possibility that there is or has been secret programs within our government that do know more and are not sharing more. And that, to me, obviously would be a huge story in and of itself, but it's also a huge story for our democracy, because it would also be proof of a government within a government. Because you have the House of Representatives saying, tell us what you know. We have the head of the Pentagon saying, we don't know, but we're trying to find out. But meanwhile, you would have some sort of, you know, netherworld of government officials or contractors that sort of have all these goods. And even the leadership that we've elected to sort of oversee them are in the dark. So, like, you know, it's a good story that we have to keep tracking because of the implications of it, if it were to be true. You know, not just what it would mean for, you know, our presence in the universe if we really did have evidence and knew of another intelligent life form, but, you know, what it would mean for, you know, our politics, that we sat on this for years and they were able to hide it even from the people that are supposed to know all the secrets.
One more thing before I let you go. There is a video circulating on the internet that came out a few days ago. It's a UFO video, an alleged UFO video from the military, and it's being referred to as the jellyfish. Have you seen this video? What are your thoughts on that? That was Corbell.
Yeah. Jeremy Corbell is sort of kind of been a leader in, you know, sort of plopping into the public discussion some really intriguing footage of things that, you know, come out of the military or some government agency. He obviously has some sources that leaks that stuff to him. But the thing that's always puzzling to me is, like, it's always, or usually, it's a very small, teeny little clip.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, where's the rest of it? Did they just looked at it for 3 seconds or 3 hours? And I was familiar, I had heard about the jellyfish a couple of years ago. Like, this sort of, it was going around, like, oh, the Pentagon got, you know, custody of some radar footage or gun camera footage, I forget what it was, of this jellyfish, of this very large, sort of tentacled. There was another one, I think it was a different one, people called the chandelier, that looked like a big chandelier hanging over the Persian Gulf in the Middle East. You know, pilots were seeing it and reporting it. They're intriguing, but taken in isolation, they don't really get us very far. It's like, it's exciting. It's clickbait. You know, people, you know, obviously I understand why Jeremy Corbell wants to put these out there. It's great for his website. It's great for his brand. But in the grand scheme of things, is it really moving the ball? It's just like another shiny object, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's look at that for 5 minutes. And I think the next chapter in this, if we want to go back to that, or the sort of the breaking point, is, and I think we're starting to see it. I don't think it'll be a breaking point in the sense that it'll be abrupt, but it will evolve, continue to evolve. The topic of UFOs is now, I think, in a way, much more mainstream and acceptable in sort of acceptable society. I mean, this is a little more imminent maybe than the next season, but the Pentagon office is supposed to release kind of volume 1 of its findings from the last few years, I think any day now, which is supposed to be sort of, what are we learning from some of these military pilots, for example? What are we learning about the possible existence of, secret compartmentalized programs that were hiding, UFO material? It's also supposed to report back on, like, they were required by Congress to do a historical study, like go back 75 years and try to figure out what might have been hidden. Interestingly, that study is also supposed to focus on any disinformation campaigns that our own government undertook on the topic of UFOs. And I think that's interesting too, because if you really did want to hide something, you don't just lock it in a box in a room somewhere and give 3 people with security clearance, authority over it. You might do that. But I think if you really had a deep, dark secret, you also create around it so much bullshit and so much conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So much noise that no one is ever going to find the room, because they are going to be distracted by 50,000 other things and other stories and other tales. And there's already evidence in terms of government documents that have been released that our government had a UFO disinformation campaign. Often it was to shield those black programs I talked about, the stealth bomber, the stealth fighter. I mean, the Soviet Union, the Russians were crawling all over America during the Cold War, trying to figure out, what are we up to? What's our next big weapon? And, there's evidence that our government spread false UFO reports to drive the Russians crazy, and also, take people off the scent of maybe some truly secret thing that had nothing to do with ET that we were working on. And so I'm interested to see what we're willing to cop to on that, what our government is willing to admit on that, because I think that's also muddled this issue in a way that makes it very, very hard to unwind this ball of yarn. People who care about this, the public, needs to marshal itself to figure out ways. How do we gather more information? How do we, on our own, study these reports and see if we can figure something out?
It makes me question why someone like David Grush would make something up like this that's so complex. I mean, people do weird shit for weird reasons that you don't understand. Like that's a fact. But this person is a decorated individual in government, in intelligence, in the intelligence community. And I don't see what he really has to gain. He kind of only has stuff to lose. If this is all for a book deal, that's pretty shitty.
Can we go into that? Let's go into why would he lie about this? Also, we met him.
Only if he believes it.
Do you want to go into how we met him?
Oh, yeah.
And how he didn't bring any of this up to us?
Yeah, okay. Actually,
that's a big thing.
We'll play a clip of this, actually. Yeah. So Brian Bender mentioned a man named Jeremy Corbell, who, if you're not aware of who this individual is, in my eyes, he's kind of like, he is like the new UFO guy.
He's the UFO guy.
He's just on the pulse of this stuff right now. Yeah, but like there's been another UFO guy. There's also George Knapp.
But
like right now, like he is on the pulse of all things UFO, UAP, and tends to get all of the government leaks, and clearly has some great relationships with secret sources, and has broken a lot of big stories in the UFO genre here. I recently sat down and interviewed Jeremy Corbell, which I've been trying to do for a long time. Actually, we were trying to interview Jeremy well over a year ago while we were making High Strain Season 1. Mm-hmm. Mike and I actually flew to Vegas. If you remember in the first season when we went to Area 51, it was the same time that we were there. And we simultaneously stayed at this hotel in Vegas and attended this Star Trek conference.
Amazing.
We're not Trekkies. I don't really even know much about Star Trek.
Speak for yourself.
I kind of.
No, it's fine. I'm not saying anything. It's not bad. I was like, didn't feel like I was a diehard fan enough. Like William Shatner was there. It was the whole thing. It was cool to see.
Yeah.
But Jeremy Corbell was there with another journalist, George Knapp, who we've used some clips from his some of his journalism in Season 1. Mm-hmm. And they spoke on a panel, and my plan was to hopefully, grab him afterwards and have a sit down with him. But he was super busy, like most people are in the world, and we had to postpone it. But I realized, and I'll play this clip. I'll play this clip from the interview in a second. But I realized that in my interview with him, he was describing that scene where we met after the panel in Vegas, and we were at the elevator. He goes, "You know who I was with that day, right?" I was like, "Yeah, George Knapp." And he goes, "No, the other guy, David." I was like, "Oh yeah, the David, the tall guy, right?" Yeah. He's like, "That was David Grush." And I was like, and David Grush meaning the guy at the congressional hearing, the guy who's started a whole brand new conversation about this. And in that moment, I go, "Holy shit, you're right." I see his face now, and he is tall as shit. And I hear his voice, and I go, I'm in the Uber back to the airport, and I text both of you guys. I go dig up that tape, because I was also like secretly recording all that, which I told him at the end that I was doing that. I said, go play that tape back and go to this moment. And I was doing it on Dropbox, and I was like, holy shit, that's his voice. Yeah. That's him.
We'll figure it all out.
What's up, man? Payne.
Oh, you're Payne.
What's
up,
man? How you doing, man? This is my
producer, Mike.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Mike. As soon as he tells me the layout for it, I'm going to suggest some guests that I can get him in contact with. It's like an audioscape thing.
Yeah, it'll be the documentary version, right?
Beautiful. Yeah, I want to help you.
Yeah, it's going to be, I wouldn't waste your time if I didn't think it was.
This is my bodyguard, Dave.
Yeah. Hey, don't be my ass.
I'm the special friend here.
He just hugs people. This is Dennis. Yeah. He hugs people.
You don't need a bodyguard, but still beat my ass. Yeah.
I know he probably could beat my ass.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave,
He's a big ogre.
you're so big.
The thing that we're working on is going to be just targeted towards breaking the stigma and kind of just self-acknowledging, just like, yeah, we're self-aware. Like, yeah, it's aliens and it's silly, but is it though? Like, what's really up is the entire tone of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that will resonate with just everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that it could be a way to just push the narrative forward. And
I'm sure we'll find time for a beer or mini golf in the dark light.
I saw the mini golf place.
Actually, he did jujitsu for the first time. He just, exactly.
Beers and mini golf.
What are y'all doing later tonight?
Don't know yet.
Okay, hit me up, because we might be going to, Zed.
Zed, the DJ.
Yeah, like I'm like friends with his manager really well. Like,
really?
So I could probably get us all backstage.
I used to, in a different life, I used to be a laser lighting designer. I used to do
so you're
Marcus Schultz.
Very cool.
Yeah,
if that's the vibe, even if it's for like an hour, like it might be a fun little thing if
that's cool.
We run out of stuff to do. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm all. Yeah, it'd be
fun.
I never worked with Zed. I mean, this was he came on my scene.
He's super cool.
After I kind of left and retired from that world.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did lasers.
So you like know about the cool ass laser.
When they came out, Major Laser, I did their shit.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, light lasers. I used to be the senior laser lighting designer. The previous life before I, did some other things.
All right, we're gonna run.
The nation.
Let me know if there's anything.
Yeah, I did some other things.
I'll shoot you a text a little bit, man. Hey, nice to meet you, man. Hey, great talk too. That was awesome. It's a weird thing that this guy who comes up with this, what could potentially be a life-altering story in the UFO narrative, was right there next to us. And we've also been trying to reach him for like months. But now we know that we're only 1 degree away.
Also, David Grush is standing right fucking
God,
there.
it makes me want
Talking
to just
like,
gouge my eyeballs
talking to me about Zed, and you're inviting him to the Zed show.
Yeah.
Which is just another
I'm like, dude,
weird...
you want to go to the Zed concert, dude?
You're like, I don't know you, but you should come
And
to
like,
the Zed
it sounds like I was
concert.
being lame, but no, like we
were
Tim
on
Smith,
stage.
actually, speaking of Tim Smith, if you're hearing this guy's amazing. He's Zed's manager.
And Skrillex.
And among other people, he does a whole
big
bunch
time.
of shit. He does cool
He's big
shit.
time.
Cooler shit than I do. Yeah. He was in Vegas the same time we were.
Mm-hmm.
And we met up with him, and he's like, "Hey, you guys want to go to backstage Zed?" And I was like, "I mean, what is that a question?" And so I was clearly like, "Hey guys, like, you want to go backstage Zed?" Turns out it was actually even cooler than I was talking about. It was, I mean,
It was in his DJ booth.
it wasn't backstage. I was DJing vicariously.
We could touch his button.
Yeah, I could touch his butt. I mean, I
And
could have. Actually, no, I did give him my hat, and he threw it into the crowd.
You told him to.
Little known story, actually, about Tim Smith is that this man, who is amazing, love this guy, Zed's manager, he is actually the sole reason that I was ever able to talk to Travis Walton. I told him I was doing this show a long time ago, when I first met him, I think, and he's into the topic, and I was keeping him up to speed, and somehow Travis Walton came up. He's like, I know that guy. I've met him before. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I met him at a conference or something, and Tim is a big UFO guy, and I guess made the connection with him. And remember that day when we were waiting on Travis Walton to come, and we thought he was never coming?
Mm-hmm.
And I was texting Tim, and I to this day think that Tim sent a text to Travis and like helped change his mind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because he was very late, and that's all good, but I think that he was having doubts and about wanting to do it.
Yeah.
And I talked about that in the podcast. I just left that little detail out. Jeremy Corbell has insight unlike most people do in this space, unless you are part of the government, because he has relationships with these people who have leaked videos, the stuff that's spawned some of the biggest articles you've heard and seen and read online. I sat down and talked to him, and it is an amazing, eye-opening conversation, and I want you to go check it out on my weekly show called Talking to Death. And I know it's annoying. You have to go click another app and all that stuff, but in the meantime, while we're working on High Strange Season 2, every week on my weekly show, we talk about stuff like this sometimes. Talk about true crime, talk about UFOs, talk about aliens. And if you want to just follow along as we're building these shows and actually working on High Strange, that's how you could do it. So if you want to check out the full interview of Jeremy Corbell, which I think you really should.
It's worth checking out.
To me, it's one of the better ones that he's done, mostly because I feel like he was just open with stuff. And I even asked him what I felt like were some real, rational, harder questions, and he had good answers for them. I asked Jeremy Corbell what he thinks, in his opinion, is the most interesting, compelling footage of UFOs out there, which is a big question because there's a bunch of shit out there and a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of stuff that might be real that we don't know. So I asked him this, and this is what he said. What do you think personally is the most compelling evidence of extraterrestrial life? Personally.
Like the first question that I've asked every single person I've ever tried to like interview. I was so naive. I'd say, "What's the best? Tell me personally what it is." And it's never.
I'm hoping you'll give me a nugget.
It's never.
Over
I
here.
know that's what I want when I talk to people. But it's never as satisfying because the real.
Like to you though,
I know
I've
you're gonna
seen
hate my
videos-
answer, bro.
I know it. Okay, what is it?
Are you ready? It sucks. Okay.
What is it?
It is the preposterous preponderance and the weight of the cumulative evidence and my personal experiences that gives me the most powerful feeling of that is the evidentiary
Culmination
proof.
of it.
It's the culmination over decades and the preposterous preponderance of evidence. And we could break that down for your viewers. What does that mean? Everything from multi-sensor platforms to like
I get where you're going
histories.
with this.
Yeah. I mean, I could like point to one thing that I think is pretty good.
Yeah, just like
one case.
Yeah, what? Yeah, give me one case. Yeah, sure.
I think the least valued and the highest return on a case is looking at the 2019 UFO swarm events over the 10 Navy warships, the story that George and I broke, with unparalleled multi-sensor, multi-platform footage that we were able to obtain and release. That 2019 case is a pinnacle of what we should be doing with getting different types of data, getting a wide spectrum of people that all experience the same series of events. It is a powerful case, and I have done all the damn legwork, and other people now can jump in and do some of that. I provided it on a silver platter. I've got other cases I'm working on. If people dug into that, they would have an unparalleled case. That case is so important.
This is the night vision one, right?
It has night vision, it was thermal, it was radar, and it was deck footage, and it was 10 Navy warships in 2019 swarmed by over 100 UFOs simultaneously coming from the west, and there's nothing out there but Hawaii. They don't know where they came from. They don't know where they went. They were transmedium. Have helicopter pilots that saw them go into the water. You got people that fought the ships that literally came on and gave me their audio on my podcast telling what they experienced. That case is profound. And our government says we still don't know who operated those devices, those units, as they call them, UAP.
That's a big one.
It's a big one.
And the skeptics would say that it was a bouquet or something in the lens.
Well, again, I love skeptics. You're talking about debunkers?
Okay, I guess you would say a debunker in that case.
Debunkers, yeah, but I don't listen to what debunkers have to say because they're
I've just seen both sides of the story, and I've kind of, but to me, having looked at it, I've seen that video. One, visually, it also is just, to me, instantaneously compelling.
So that's the green triangle-looking footage.
Yes,
by
that's
angle
what I'm
of
picturing,
observation, it was green. So triangle by angle of observation. So what is a four-dimensional triangle? Well, that would be probably a pyramid. Now, when I said, oh yeah, they were reported as pyramid in shape, I didn't pull that out of thin air, right? Now, I can't put out everything that comes my way, but I will tell you on record that is in classified documents that there's other sensor systems that they had, and they were pyramid in shaped. And there you go. But people can take a piece of this cup and tear it off and put it to the side and then hide the rest of the cup and be like, see, it's not a cup. Like, yeah, but that's a piece of a cup. That's what they're doing intentionally. I'm telling people, if you look at the totality of the 2019 swarm events, which is an example of these swarms that are occurring all around the world to this day, and I have other cases of it, and I've said one before, and it was off the coast of Japan. I did that on one of my podcasts. People should dig into that. There have been so many, and I have so many firsthand witnesses, some of whom are leaving military now and will come forward with telling exactly what they know about it. But everything happens on its own time with that. I can't control that.
Absolutely.
Great
also,
case.
That's a huge decision that they're making too, if they're leaving and they're coming out, right?
Because we see what happens to people that raise their head above the parapet. David Grush, you just go try to King Kong on him.
Crucified out there, man.
Yeah, but he's a tough motherfucker.
Yeah, I will say David Grush is also really well spoken, I think, and just articulate.
Agreed.
So, regardless of, if what he's saying is true or not, damn, they got a good person saying it.
Yeah.
Like,
we're
for
lucky.
real, right? Seriously.
We're lucky to have somebody like David Grush. He's articulate. David Grush is fastidious. He is also has an incredible memory. He is well-oriented to be in the roles that he was in, which was, national security, intelligence. He was a high-ranking intelligence officer, career guy. He's the kind of guy you want protecting America. He's the kind of guy that was in a position to know and see these black programs. He's the guy that uncovered with, dozens of witnesses, these UFO or non-human intelligence craft being reverse engineered, that kind of thing. And then he pushed over those sources, like he says up to 40, and he put them over to another investigation into the ICIG, Intelligence Community Inspector General, like the police of the intelligence community. They then did their own investigation, found it to be both credible and urgent, and obviously found what he said to be not only credible and urgent, but relevant and not a lie. So really, we're lucky to have David Grush having come forward to the degree he has. There's more he could do, but he has to abide by the law and does not want to hurt the United States of America. So how do you do it? And he's trying to do it the right way. Famously, if you're in intelligence, you have to assume you're being lied to, by people in intelligence. Like,
Sure.
Our government has completely tried to keep this on the DL. And I get that sometimes for good reason, but we're past that now. Mm-hmm. So I'm really hoping that the new director of Aero makes a point to be honest with the American public, because the truth will be told eventually. And I know that because people have gone to the ICIG, mm-hmm. this cops of the intelligence agencies, and they have presented what they know, and it is undeniable. So now it's just a matter of following up on it. So the truth will come out. And if you're going to be remembered in history because you got the hubris and the little, coat pins and you want to be remembered in history, mm-hmm. Don't fucking lie.
Yeah.
How about that? Start there. Be honest with the American public. I just know that certain truths will come out, mm-hmm. easy way or hard way. Mm-hmm. And I am all down for the hard way, and so are other people. Mm-hmm. It ain't pretty, though. It would be nice if it came out in a controlled way where this disclosure process is. When we can get to a point where we stop pointing the finger at each other and being like, we could have difference of opinion, but when we're all in it together, we have some consensus that this is worthy of us looking at. You're going to see that completely unravel. You're going to see, I mean, I'm not a predictive person. I don't know when my coffee pot's going off, but I imagine that if we stop mm-hmm. this kind of weird infighting and just try to look at the truth together, it will be abundantly clear that there's a true mystery here, and we could benefit from looking at it together. We've been ignoring it for quite some time. We've been that guy, mm-hmm. On the corner of the table saying,
denying it, really.
Yeah, going along with everybody, Well,
it's easier to feel like we do know everything, but that's always never been true.
That's never.
Why is it true now all of a sudden? It isn't.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's a weird burden. Like, I am wrong more than I'm right.
Right.
But the thing is, see,
that's how you know that you're right, is if you've ever been wrong. Yeah. Right? Well, or unless you're always right then. Yeah.
Have you ever had that moment where you're a kid, right? Uh-huh. And you fight for something, you're like, I know for sure they said left and not right. And then you just get a complete, you were totally wrong. Yeah, have you ever had that experience?
Yes. Yes.
Did you learn from that?
Yeah. I don't ever want to feel that way again.
Okay. Yeah. I learned that, holy shit, I got to triple check things, quadruple check them, because we are all flawed. We have a chance to be wrong.
Absolutely.
So you always put that in the front of the mind.
Yeah. You got to check yourself.
Always. And have other people do it for you too. Help you.
Jeremy gets so much hate on Reddit and on Twitter that he's a grifter, that he's just saying stuff and he's believing stuff that people tell him. Bro, this is one of the most sincere dudes I've ever talked to. And he's not tricking anyone. He believes this stuff. People come to him with information that they trust him with, and he keeps them anonymous, and he doesn't put it out right away. And he might sit on stuff that he's known about forever. The UFO people are turning against him and he's just a dude saying next time. But no, this guy wants all the same stuff we want. He wants disclosure. He wants this stuff to come out. Mm-hmm. He wants to out every source that's ever came to him, but he can't.
Yeah, he's in the business of furthering this.
You have to gain
pushing
trust
the ball
of people.
Forward.
Yeah, and to keep trust and to keep other sources coming to you anonymously, you have to respect the current ones you have right now. Mm-hmm. And he does that, and he's very sincere.
Yeah, and I asked him hard questions, normal hard questions. If I were to say, hey, XYZ, and you're like, holy shit, that sounds unbelievable, you'd be like, tell me more, or what do you mean, or how do you know? And I was asking those kind of questions, and I feel like, those are questions that are probably annoying, but he also knows the value of those questions. And I had never at all was trying to, catch him in something. I wanted him to take the time to explain one more detail that might be and I was looking for myself. I was like, if I'm a little bit skeptical, help me get there. I believe you, but I'm also, if it's, I deal with true crime, and that comes down to the court of law sometimes, right? Facts, evidence, statements, witness testimony, shit that you can present to a jury to make your argument. And I really enjoyed that we were able to have that kind of conversation. Of course, he had only great answers because that's who he is. He's not bullshitting. It's a weird topic because, we don't know where this is going to go. But every time I get lost in it again and I'm like, God, man, like if it was real, we would just know by now. I think of the exact opposite for a second. I go, man, if it wasn't real, man, wouldn't this just be over by now?
Yeah.
Think about all the things that we proved to be wrong. There's a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how is this one still so persistent? For as much as we know, it's almost like the ideas only become more likely and more possible. And that's maddening to think about, especially if it weren't true. What does it even say about us as humans if we were just imagining all this shit at this point? Or what is it that we're experiencing that we're filling in all these gaps for? I think that becomes a crazier concept than there being something beyond this earth, whatever that means, in existence that is more intelligent and has been here for longer. We love making this show, and we love making these roundtable episodes. And I swear to God, every week, we have been reminding ourselves we need to go make a roundtable right now, just to do it, and have faith in us because we have been hard at work on investigating new stories for the second season, and it's actually finally shaping up, and it's becoming a thing.
I'm not gonna lie.
What?
This might be my favorite thing to do.
Talk about UFOs?
Dude, you're so good at it.
It's
High Strange
good.
is
It's
so
good.
fucking
It's
fun.
good. Hey, look, he said it. Keep this part in. We most certainly have plans to make a second season of High Strange, so I'll just go ahead and officially say that. I don't have a timeline for you yet, but I can tell you that we've already been working on it. We never really put it down since we stopped. It almost seemed like High Strange Season 1 broke the seal for us and kind of kicked down the door for some of the people we've wanted to talk to since day one anyway. And the conversation is evolving. And I always looked at High Strange Season 1 as a sort of a baby step to this concept, even for myself, just to sort of put it all wrapped up in a bow and let's just talk about what the hell is going on. And I feel like if you were riding with me the whole time in Season 1, that we're probably in a similar spot no matter where you land, that there's something going on, right?
You can't deny it.
And so the conversation's not dead. It's only more alive than ever. And I had a thought that conceptually for High Strange Season 2, a lot of people have emailed me and they've said stuff like, is this just like an American thing, right? All the stories we covered were mostly American stories besides the Rendlesham incident, which was the American military, but happened in the UK. But I can totally see how just the folklore around UFOs, Area 51, the U.S. government, flying saucers, a lot of that stems from American pop culture, right? But the crazy thing is, and I've learned this even more since the season ended, is that it's a legitimate worldwide thing.
Absolutely.
It's happening in every single fucking country you can think of. And I think a lot of those stories, to me, almost hold more weight because it just goes against the pop culture hoax sort of concept that we lean into when it seems too good to be true here. And please, go check out Talking to Death, my weekly show. We all three work on this show. Every interview that you hear on that show, we've all been in the fucking room. And it's a fun array of people. And we do talk about UFOs with people you would never expect us to.
Yeah.
So go check out Talking to Death. Right now, my my true crime show, which is how this all started, Up and Vanished, is out. And so we're doing these intros in the beginning of the Talking to Death episode. We're breaking down that. So if you haven't heard Up and Vanished, go check that out. But yeah, we're coming back. We never left you. We always loved you. And please, talk to us. Send us an email, follow us on social media at High Strange. Tell us what you think, and we may or may not respond. We'll post this jellyfish UFO video on the Instagram, the High Strange Instagram. It is weird looking. It's like I don't know what it looks like. It doesn't look like a traditional UFO in the way that you are probably imagining it. It looks like looks like a jellyfish.
Well, have you seen the peanut butter one?
The what? The peanut butter? Is this a bad joke?
It's a bad joke.
Okay.
What's the punchline?
Yeah. Can't wait. When does it get funny?
Well, it's the peanut butter incident and the jellyfish incident.
Oh my!
The peanut butter
God,
and jellyfish.
Wow, that's hilarious.
God, we went too long. We talked for too long. We have fried our brains, everybody. But no, in all seriousness, thank you for being patient with us. We love you guys, and we will see you very soon. Go check out Talking to Death. The Jeremy Corbell interview is all about UFOs, and I know you'll love it. Thanks.
Thank you for being a friend.
Thanks.
On the spaceship, now I'm a space cadet. Big white mansion in my habitat. Aim right at stage like a laser tag. Fuck a rich, damn rich set. Smoke a lot of trees, need a weed plant. I did take a lean where the lean at. Sleeping on these G's, there's a beanbag. Got red going jeans, cause I'm cool rap. Shit, no shoes overseas, they were pan leather. Shop in Tokyo, Japan, they the best ever. Blueberry t-shirt, sleeve vanilla. Hard top, turn a vert, riding any weather. Ain't gotta bend down, this ain't a propeller. Man, we spend it down, copping Gucci sweaters. Instead of dripping, Johnny like a nine help him. Used to booming out the guys, we are not the devil.
High Strange is an 8-part series released weekly for free every Thursday. But if you'd like to binge the whole series right now, you can. Subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus on Apple Podcasts to get all the episodes right now. Follow the show on TikTok and Instagram at High Strange. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Payne Lindsay. If you have your own UFO story, email us at tips@highstrange.com. High Strange is a production by Tenderfoot TV in association with Cadence 13. Created, hosted, and edited by myself, Payne Lindsay. Executive producers are myself and Donald Albright. Editing by Mike Rooney, Cooper Skinner, and myself. Original score by Makeup and Vanity Set. Sound design, mixing, and mastering by Cooper Skinner. Additional production by Mike Rooney, Dylan Harrington, Eric Quintana, Sean Nerney, Meredith Stedman, and Sydney Evans. Our cover art is by Polygon. This episode features the song Space Cadet by Metro Boomin featuring Gunna. Written by Wesley Tyre Glass, Sergio Kitchens, Leland Tyler Wayne, Alan Ritter, and Jacquees Webster. Performed by Metro Boomin featuring Gunna. Courtesy of Republic Records. Under license from Universal Music Enterprises for Metro Boomin and 300 Entertainment for Gunna. Special thanks to Oren Rosenbaum and the whole team at UTA. The Nord Group, Station 16, Beck Media and Marketing, as well as Chris Corcoran and the team at Cadence 13. Check out the show's website at highstrange.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please help us out by rating and reviewing the podcast and share it with your friends. Thanks for listening. High Strange is an 8-part series. If you'd like to binge the whole series right now, ad-free, you can. Subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus on Apple Podcasts.